What's good, guys? It's your girl Alhan Islam. Welcome to Change O'Clock. You know what time it is. You better recognize. So, last night I got a call from my friend in Kenya, Deraso, and she goes, "Yo, G." I'm like, "What's up?" She's like, "Mount Longonot." I'm like, "Yeah." And she's like, "It just erupted." I'm like, "No way!" I said, "Wait, hold on a second. I was just at Eneshipai last week with my colleagues, at the Change.org Africa retreat. And we went to the safari walk where we saw Mount Longonot. And our guide was like, that mountain hasn't erupted in the past 100 plus years. So wait a second. Could this be climate change? Or could this be fake news?"
I don't want peace. I want problems always.
Let's rewind back a bit. Let's talk about Mount Longonot. Mount Longonot is a stratovolcano located at southeast of Lake Naivasha in the Great Rift Valley of Kenya. Kenya is situated in Africa, and it is thought to have erupted in the 1860, which is 162 years ago. And its name is derived from the Maasai word Olongonogot. I think so. Meaning mountains of many spurs or steep ridges. What's a stratovolcano? A stratovolcano, also known as a composite volcano, is a conical volcano built up by many layers of hardened lava. They're basically cones that are built by what comes out of the volcanic vent, right? Piling up around the vent in the shape of a cone with a central crater. Let's look at what ranking Mount Longonot has in Kenya. It is the 8th highest mountain in Kenya. So what could have provoked such a majestic creation after 162 years of being inactive? Like I said, climate change? Is this even fact or is it fake news?
Hi guys, so here we have Mr. Lenny Ruvaga, the one and only Lenny, senior campaigner, change.org in Kenya. Thank you so much, Lenny. So, getting straight into it, is it a fact or is it fake news that Mount Longonot did erupt?
Well, just to dash the hopes of the naysayers, it is indeed fake news. But suffice to say, there was a fire that had started on Thursday, and on the Twitter Spaces, on social media, reports, unverified reports, were doing the rounds saying that Mount Longonot has indeed erupted. However, the Kenya Wildlife Service came up with a report and a statement stating that indeed it wasn't an eruption but a fire. Yes, so just to allay the fears, Mount Longonot is indeed an extinct volcano, meaning there are no chances of it erupting, and it's a stratovolcano, meaning that it's built over layers and layers of magma. The last time that it was reported to have erupted was in the 1860s. So just to allay the fears and just to answer your question, it is indeed fake news. It was a fire that was that had been started. They're not sure who exactly started the fire or how it was started. They're yet to establish that. However, by the time that the fire was put out on Friday, about 40 hectares of vegetation, crop cover, fauna, and flora was actually destroyed. Yeah.
Oh, this is sad. I hope animals were not affected because I know around Mount Longonot you have animals as well.
It's quite a rich ecosystem, and I'm sure that in time it'll get replenished, and just like biodiversity is, it's susceptible to the effects of climate change. The fire doesn't help in any way make a case for the vegetation, for the biodiversity in the area, but I'm sure it bounced back. And yeah, and this also speaks to the wider picture, Mariam, of climate change. I'll have you know that in Kenya, there are about 4.5 million people who are at the risk of starvation due to severe drought. The government has put efforts in place to actually send relief food, and they've partnered with non-governmental organizations and organizations to kind of actually cushion the people on the ground and who are suffering the vicissitudes of actually this hunger.
Yes, climate change is real. And I really do hope that, Kenya, Nigeria, and all other countries just take this seriously, and we, the citizens, also hold ourselves accountable.
Thank you so much for the time. Always a pleasure being here. Just one thing to your wonderful audience. With any kind of news, always verify, verify, verify. Rule of thumb. Always verify and attribute where the news is coming from. Always a pleasure being here. Thank you.
Thank you. And yep, it's change o'clock. Lenny, they know what time it is.
Change o'clock.
Thank you, Lenny.
Now that we have established that it's fake news, let us educate ourselves about what volcanic eruptions are. What are some of the things that can happen as a result of an eruption? I mean, let's just educate ourselves, right? We never know what happens with the rate at which climate change is going. So first thing, you must know that you may be exposed to falling ash and volcanic rocks, and they can cause disastrous loss of life and property, especially in heavily populated areas. But then in this case, Mount Longonot is not a densely populated area, but it's a tourist attraction, and then you have quite a number of wildlife there. I mean, when we went for the safari walk, you had giraffes and some other animals. So will this cause their migration or death? That is something we must consider. And what happens to the environment after a volcanic eruption? First, the environment will be injected, with ash falls. And that is rapidly from the stratosphere. Most of it is removed within several days to weeks, and it has little or no impact on climate change. But volcanic gases like sulfur dioxide can cause global cooling, while volcanic carbon dioxide, a greenhouse gas, has the potential to promote global warming. So either ways, it has some, relation and some impact when it comes to climate change. And we have to know that people in the past have died from volcanic blasts, volcanic eruptions, and that can result in additional threats to health, such as flood, mudslides, power outage, drinking water contamination, and wildfires. I mean, we have the case in Australia where, they have been having wildfires, right? So climate change. Let's hear from Deraso.
Hi, Deraso. Thank you for coming on Change O'Clock. So guys, this is my friend, Deraso Dokhole. She is based in Nairobi, Kenya. And so she was the one who sent me that message to be like, yo, look at that, because it was all over Twitter that Mount Longonot was on fire, like a volcanic eruption happened there. So, and then, she sent me a message that, listen, it's fake news. But it was all over Twitter, and even the news houses in Kenya picked that up. And I guess it created unnecessary panic. So Deraso, let's go.
So basically, this started with the fact that there's been some tension within Naivasha town, whereby even the roads people are using, there was a bit of shaking that was going on. So there were concerns that something might happen. The heat levels in Kenya has been quite high, as it's supposed to be rainy season. It's not raining in Kenya at the moment. And so people were like, well, it's because something might happen, because the last time we've been having discussions about volcanic eruptions, there have been some signs like the roads shaking, the ground shaking, and stuff like that. And again, when you visited Naivasha, you were told about the fact that Mount Longonot is a dominant. It's taken a while before.
Yeah,
it's been how many years?
162 years since it erupted. Yeah. So the roads were shaking.
Yeah, that's what people were. The residents in that area were giving feedback saying that was happening. So when there was a bit of which we learned later on was a fire breakout, which was so huge. People thought immediately that was a volcanic eruption because of the signs that has been showing and the heat levels in places like Naivasha is supposed to be a very, very cool place, but even anybody who has visited it the past few months can tell you that the heat levels has been quite high. So with that, people started now saying that there is a volcanic eruption, people need to evacuate and stuff like that. Then the Kenya Wildlife Service, which I contacted them, said that it's not true.
I feel like still, regardless, you have some elements of climate change to that,
Yeah.
Naivasha is a very beautiful place. And for me, it's like, I wouldn't be surprised if we are told that volcano erupted, or like a mountain is on fire or something, because of how climate change is right now. And you can totally sort of relate that to how emissions have an effect on global warming. And also for a mountain to erupt, it basically has to do with the heat that goes underground, that's there. So I feel like we might be on the verge of that one way or another, and we just need to take climate change seriously.
Absolutely, and this is the thing. If you look into like a volcanic eruption, if you read about it and you've gone through it, you'll see that how heat is the main contributing factor to the magma formation and it erupting to outside and causing displacement and stuff. So with the heat levels and everybody, especially now in East Africa, there's been drought crisis that has been happening, especially in Kenya, whereby you get reports where 10 counties in Kenya are on the verge of actually it should be a state of emergency because people are dying because of drought and the heat levels. Animals are suffering. It's affecting the heat levels. The lack of rain is affecting different sectors in this country.
So much for your time, Deraso.
As the atmosphere warms due to climate change, the plumes of ash and gases emitted by large, but infrequent volcanic eruptions has the tendency to rise even higher. Volcanoes erupt because of the way the heat moves beneath the Earth's surface. And what are some of the causes of this climate change that perhaps has a direct link to a volcanic eruption and global warming? Top of the list, emissions. Climate Bender here will tell us more about emissions.
Thank you, Alhan. As I said before, where or when a volcano erupts is uncontrollable. But as the atmosphere warms up, due to climate change, the gas released from the active or passive volcanic eruption will rise higher and higher. Greenhouse gas emissions are the highest cause of global warming. Carbon dioxide is one of the greenhouse gases that contributes to warming of the earth, which is global warming. Here are some of the ways to reduce our carbon footprint to save Earth. Instead of using private transport system, you should try going for public transport system. We should recycle our plastic bottles, cans, plastic bags. Why? To produce them, it takes a lot of energy. And to dispose of them, it takes more energy. We should reduce how much electricity we use by turning off our electrical appliances when we're not using them.
We must hold ourselves accountable by reducing our footprints, right? So what I'm going to tell you today is start your petition, start your campaign, push that campaign, because it is about time we recognize just how severe climate change is, because you know what time it is. It's change o'clock.
From all we heard, the news about Mount Longonot can be classified as misinformation. Avoid spreading misinformation by stopping and fact-checking before you share. Practice evaluation skills and develop a critical mindset. Thank you for joining us on Change O'Clock, brought to you by the largest platform for change, change.org.